Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tell My Story, the podcast where we highlight the often overlooked experiences of all frontline workers. I'm your host, Halima Ahmed, Public Health Lead of IWC, and today we're joined with Saniya Sood, of Air Canada flight attendant since 2016. Thank you so much, Saniya, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. So, I guess to start off, how did you realize that this job was for you?
So, I grew up in Dubai and my dad was a travel agent, so he just took us around the world and I always knew I loved traveling. And then when we moved to Toronto, I was like I was really young, but I always knew that I was looking for something where I got to express my creative side but also travel. Went to York University and I was hoping to become a journalist, but like specifically a travel journalist. But then I soon realized becoming a journalist wasn't for me. And then I kind of took a year off from that and just started serving at restaurants. And that's when I soon realized I love interacting with people. And I thought that something that lets me travel and interact with people while I'm doing that would be perfect. And then flight attendant came up. I saw a job posting for Air Canada and I decided to apply and took the leap. They were only hiring for Vancouver and Calgary at the time. So I even decided to, move across the country. And as soon as I started working, I knew this was the career I wanted. It was perfect. I got to see the world and just meet all these different kinds of people and help people on board. And it was just a great experience for me.
And you mentioned that your dad was a travel agent, and that really kind of ignited a lot of your love for seeing the world. Now, as a flight attendant, do you still kind of get that bubbly feeling every time you see a new country, or you just see something cool as you travel?
Exactly. Yeah. My dad taking us around the world at a young age, I feel like I didn't appreciate seeing all these countries before the age of 10. And as soon as I became an adult myself and realized traveling isn't that easy and decided to appreciate everywhere my parents took me. And then as soon as I became a flight attendant, I was able to travel for cheap as well on my
Mhm.
passes, on my time off. So it was just a really great experience. It's just that feeling when you get somewhere new and you get to experience a different country or a different culture. And especially due to COVID, I haven't been able to travel as much. So I
Mhm.
even took a trip in BC to Penticton, which is like wine country here. And it was just like that feeling all over again after 4 months of staying in the same place. It was great.
Absolutely. I think everybody loves to travel or wants to travel someday. So far, what has been your favorite travel destination?
Ooh, that's a really tough question. I'd have to say Morocco. I went there about almost 3 years ago now, and it was just such a culture shock. I've never experienced something like that before, and I feel like I've traveled to many different countries, but it was just so crazy and such a beautiful country, and their culture and their food is just something that everyone should try. And then I camped overnight in the Sahara Desert, and the stars is like, oh my God, something everyone needs to experience themselves.
That's beautiful. Is there a specific continent that you think you've been to more than any other place?
Hmm. I would say North America. I think I've seen a lot of North America. And other than that, I would say the second most I've seen is Asia, but I definitely haven't seen it all. And there's so much more I want to explore in Asia. And that would probably be my favorite continent to explore because the culture is there and all the countries are so different from one another.
And now I guess segueing more into COVID-19, when did you start thinking or start feeling that things were getting a little more concerning with the pandemic as a flight attendant?
Honestly, it all happened so quickly. I remember when it first started off in January and we first started hearing about this virus. And I had just gone to Hong Kong in end of December. And I was like, that's crazy. It can't be. It was just like in China. And then our flights were stopping. And it was only isolated to, I think, Shanghai and Beijing at that point. And I never thought it would just get bigger and bigger. And by February, it was in like Korea and all these places. But I never in a million years thought it would get to here and this bad over here.
Mhm.
And then March started, and then it was just like closer and closer. And in the middle of March, I was in actually the process of buying a house. So I
Mhm.
was like, there's no way I can lose my job. Like, that just wouldn't happen. And then, like, literally by the end of March, like, layoffs was a thing and like it was our reality, and we had to start accepting it. Although we didn't get laid off till June, March and April and May was just hard months because you're like, I can't believe this is happening. When is it going to stop? And now we're facing this reality that it isn't really going to stop. And it's something they're going to have to live with.
Absolutely. I guess as you travel, did you ever feel or were you ever scared that you would catch the virus and pass it off to somebody, especially being somebody who's very, very susceptible considering you're traveling with people from all around the world?
Yeah, I do remember in March, I was in Delhi, and our hotel in Delhi had had an outbreak earlier that week. And when we were staying there, they told us it's all clean and it's all sanitized. But, it was just still like, can I touch things? And you're still
Mhm.
trying to sanitize it yourself, but you don't know. And then, like, you didn't want to go out to eat. So you're staying in your hotel, but you're like, but what if, like, the hotel staff has it? So that was scary. And then, yeah, for sure on flights, we had in June, it was just it wasn't even protocol to wear masks, but we were allowed to wear masks and gloves. And we just did that. And now they have a lot of different kind of protective wear for the flight attendants. So they're allowed to wear a gown, safety goggles, a face shield, mask, and gloves. But
Mhm.
back then, we just wore masks. And I remember, like, just it's hard because you're there serving the passengers. We were still doing service in March. So you're still handing them drinks, and passengers didn't have to wear a mask back then either, so I was definitely scared, but yeah, thank God I didn't get anything.
Absolutely. It must have been very, very scary considering everything that was going on. Now that you've been laid off, how have you really dealt with it and how has it been challenging?
It's definitely challenging from going with like, doing a job that, like, I was gone more than half of the month, and I was never home, and now I'm just home all the time, so that
Mhm.
is definitely challenging. Obviously, the financial aspect of it has also hugely impacted me. But I keep thinking I know that one day we will recover from this and Air Canada will do callbacks, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, like, I also did just travel last week. I went home to Toronto to see my family, and just being on a plane and seeing the way things have changed now that they don't do service in the back other than water, and they do hand us these care and class kits, which have gloves and sanitizers and masks in it. It's really interesting to see the way it's changed, and when I do get called back, how different it is gonna be now.
Absolutely. Have you been able to stay in touch with all of your coworkers? Because I guess you guys are really, really tight-knit considering you're spending so many hours together.
Yeah, I do have a lot of coworkers that I do talk to on almost a daily basis, and everyone is definitely struggling with this. We're all trying to predict when we'll be called back. They say that the airline industry is going to suffer from this for about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So we're hoping the demand goes back up because they did do a massive layoff. So I know they're going to start calling people back soon. And but we are all pretty junior in seniority. So hopefully within the next year or two, we'll be called back.
Mhm, and also you mentioned that you've been taking up some kind of side jobs. Obviously, everyone is really, really financially struggling during these times. How has it been moving from, like, traveling around the world to now kind of doing jobs that are a lot more different than that?
Yeah, so I always kind of knew being in the travel industry, layoffs would be a thing. My father got laid off multiple times as a travel agent. So I was prepared for this in a way. So as a flight attendant, I would always work as a server on the side, and I had different little jobs to just, pass time because you did have get a lot of time off as a flight attendant as well. But as soon as I got laid off, all the jobs that I did do weren't really hiring because restaurants
Mhm,
have definitely cut back in staff and hours. And first 3 months, restaurants were closed as well. So I wasn't able to go back in that field. And I wasn't comfortable also going back to interacting with people with COVID around. So I decided to take a work from home job. So currently I am working with Lululemon from home. And it's really different because I'm so used to being out there and interacting with people. And now I'm at home just, on my laptop for 8 hours a day. So it's definitely adjustment. But my animals are definitely liking me being home this much.
mhm. What kind of pets do you have?
I have a cat and a dog. My cat's loving it. She like literally sits on my lap all the time, cuddling with me. It's going to be a huge impact on them when I do go back to flying for
Mhm.
sure.
Yes, in general, has this kind of been mentally taxing for you, especially with, like, your mental health and things of that sort?
Definitely. I think the first 2 months were really hard on my mental health. And I do think like a lot of people experience the same thing because, staying at home and especially being someone that like saw different people and saw different places all the time, not seeing anyone but my fiance was really tough. He went to work. So I was kind of like, I was like my cat at home. I would just wait for him to come home and be like, oh, what's it like out there? Like other than going to the grocery store, I didn't really get to talk to anyone. So it was definitely really hard. I do know a lot of my colleagues are experiencing depression and a lot of other things, and a lot of other people aren't really able to get different jobs out there. So it's really hard, and I totally feel for other people that are still experiencing this. I am thankful that BC actually went into phase 2 a lot faster than Ontario did. So a lot of things opened up here and are still open, so I'm really thankful for that. And the weather is so nice. I can't imagine going under quarantine or lockdown in the winter time. Not looking forward for that because I feel like that may be coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess during all of this difficulty, have you noticed any kind of silver linings or anything positive come out of it?
That's such a hard thing to say. Yeah, I do think there are some silver linings. Like flying is really tough on your body. So I think like taking this little break that I didn't want or need, but it has been really good on my physical health. I am able to eat on time instead of, being stuck in different time zones. My skin's loving it. And I do think I mean, for the world, I think it is, slowing down in that 2, 3 months where the whole entire world was on lockdown was really good for the environment as well. I do think there are silver linings for everything, so I'm trying to look at that, trying to look at the positive in this, trying to look at the how exciting it will be when I do go back to my job and, definitely appreciate my job way more.
Absolutely. And I think to end things off, when you eventually and hopefully soon go back and do all your flight attendant things, what is one country that you really, really want to go to next?
Oh, that's okay, I would say Japan for sure. We fly to Japan, and I haven't been able to go there for a layover yet, and I'm definitely looking forward for that. And I do miss like sushi and all the cool little Japanese food because I haven't been able to go out to eat that much here either. So I'm definitely looking forward to go to Japan, and I really hope that happens in the near future.
Well, that kind of concludes our little conversation. Thank you so much, Sania, for joining us here today and telling us all about your experiences as a flight attendant and now being laid off. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you do for all of us travel lovers.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And yeah, it was so nice to talk about my job that I miss so much now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to tune in next week to hear from our next frontline worker.